Trigun Maximum. New title, new publisher, new genre. But is it the same old Trigun? For the most part, yes. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to say right off the bat that I think we've officially separated from the anime at this point, even though there is a huge amount of this. It's really just straight from the anime, but it's getting to the point where it's so different that they're getting hard to compare. And starting right off with getting Vash back, for some reason I expected this to happen a lot quicker than it does. It literally takes almost this entire first volume just to kind of get Vash back into the swing of things, and we get him back slowly, one piece at a time. Also, I'm really excited for the deluxe editions to come out because this is officially my last physical copy that I have of Trigun, and also this is really a terrible reading experience. It's like the way it's joined together, you can't even read some of the narration bubbles. The Trigun books were done well. This Maximum book is not. It's kind of hot garbage. It's not a good reading experience at all. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. We'd start with Wolfwood going out in search of Vash, and a fake Vash attacks the town when a man named Eric's, the real Vash, comes out and saves the day or gets them to go away by barking like a dog and stripping naked. And Wolfwood gives Vash his gun back while telling him about the ghost town with knives written in the middle of it, and Vash ultimately decides to cut his hair. This all pretty much plays out exactly the same way that it does in the anime, with a few key differences here and there, like for some reason Vash's hair is different colors now, and for some reason in this Knives looks like some 1990s bondage monster. This is either your worst nightmare or maybe your greatest fantasy. Take your pick. Meanwhile, Bernard Daly ends up sending out a new insurance agent after Vash, who just might not be everything he says he is, and he ends up trying to take Vash out. But this in turn gets Meryl and Millie back into the story, so we're getting, like I said, one piece at a time. We'll get back. But it's just great because it really adds to the feeling that the events at the end of the last book really have some long-lasting repercussions, and we're not just gonna bounce back from them. And yes, in this volume, but really just in this entire manga in general, there is just such a real softness to the quiet moments that take place in this that cannot be overstated, just how affecting they really are. Anyway, we get a sweet-ass training sequence with Vash, and Brad and an old man bring Vash a new coat and a new set of gear. Once again, this happens pretty much just like it did in the anime, except for this time, just like his hair, the coat suddenly looks different, including literal pipes that are on it for some reason. And the whole thing just kind of looks different in general. The boots, the whole thing. And then we get the hugely impactful scene with a man trying to kill somebody who killed his daughter, and Vash just begging him not to do it. And in the end, the guy is not able to just take another life, even though that man took his daughter from him. And the volume ends with Vash and Wolfwood leaving on a motorcycle, and the bad guys go to tell Legato that Vash has resurfaced. And for some reason, Legato's in this Iron Maiden looking thing. So everything's just a little weird this time around. I'm not really sure what's going on with all these design decisions that they're making in this. And at the same time, the whole feeling of this volume felt extremely different from what we've had, what I would consider to be the baseline feeling of the adventure of Trigun, which is kind of funny that I say that because I said in the last one that it felt very different than the first book. So if the first book had a feeling and the second book felt different than that and the third one felt different than this, how could you say that it feels different from the baseline? How is there even a baseline feeling of Trigun if it's been so drastically different this entire time? Well, Volume 2 starts out with the return of the gung-ho guns, and Vash is off on his adventure to go get knives. And there's a big battle with a guy with a robot arm and a boomerang, and we feel like we're back to that baseline feeling of adventure that I was just talking about. It's kind of intermittent. It's like the set point. These all feel so different in what they're doing with the like beats of the story, but in between all these different things that he's doing, there's like this constant return to baseline, and the baseline are these chapters here. The baseline is that fun adventure that kind of rolls through, but it then boomerangs back and forth to all these other things that are just much more heavy hitting and so much more varied, and it's very erratic in the way that it's structured and put together. It's kind of madness. Anyway, we see that the gung-ho guns are not all happy being controlled by Legato, because one of them attempts to stand up to him, and it doesn't go well for him. Also, seriously, what is up with Legato in this fucking Iron Maiden thing? I do not get it. And then Knives shows up to talk to him, and they're going to have a conversation about causing the ultimate suffering for Vash. And I'm really not entirely sure what is happening with the design decisions in this manga anymore. And then this page is followed up by this page. And I'm really seriously starting to think that this manga was written by a madman. Anyway, speaking of being back to the status quo of the vibe that is this manga, we now get the section with the samurai coming in to challenge Vash, and it really feels like we're home, you know? And it's the gun versus the sword, and ultimately, of course, the samurai's not going to come out on top, and Vash makes him promise not to take any more lives, which the guy agrees, and then immediately tries to stand up and stab him in the back. And this is the point where Wolfwood and now we get Vash versus Wolfwood. And it's a battle of ideologies. And I love this. Of all the pacifist characters, of all the pacifist stories out there that have ever been told, this has to be in the running for one of the best ever. And it's the combination of these two characters that makes that possible. The combination of Vash with Wolfwood and who they are and what they stand for and what they're trying to do, and Vash being that symbol of purity and perfection that nobody really can live up to, and Wolfwood being a good man, or at least trying his damnedest to be a good man, and just being so utterly flawed and broken to his core that he fails miserably at being that good person that he really wants to be. And them coming together in their really tense partnership, and they're gonna work together, and they're working towards what we think is the same goal at this point anyway. They just can't see eye to eye, but they're gonna work together anyway, and they're gonna butt heads every single step of the way, and they're both just so sure of their own perspective that they're gonna do nothing but fight about it. And you can't help but be on Vash's side, because he has the purity of character and the purity of spirit to always do the right thing, always. And it's such a personal feeling, at least for me reading it, because as much as you really want to adhere to these ideals and stand up for everything that Vash stands up for, and in the way that Vash stands up, we are striving for that. But somehow I feel like most of us ultimately end up feeling more like a wolf would. Just struggling to do the right thing and not sure that you're doing it right. Like, you know, I don't know. Anyway, over with Meryl and Millie, a ship crashes, and we see Brad and a girl get out, and they're looking for Vash. And we turn the page, and we see that after his argument with Vash, Wolfwood is now having nightmares. And to be honest, maybe it doesn't even have anything to do with his argument with Vash. Maybe Wolfwood just always has nightmares. And literally on the same page that this nightmare ends, we get this. Like, the spastic way that this manga changes tones in the, blink of an eye is insane. It shouldn't work, yet it comes together to create an experience that is just absolutely wonderful. Anyway, completely dehydrated and sapped for energy, somehow Vash still gets himself stuck in a little side adventure. And after that, Vash sets off on a journey to go back home, which turns out to be a crashed ship in the middle of a sea of sand. But when they get there, it turns out that the people are all puppets being controlled by one of the gung-ho guns. And now we understand why Brad and that one girl were flying around looking for Vash. And it's at this point that we realize there is no place and there is no one that is safe now that Knives is back. And like I said, this is just wonderful. The level of humor mixed with the level of serious and somber tones and just everything mashed together. The sheer number of tones that this is going to throw at you and the sheer rapidity of how quickly it does it from one page to the next, sometimes from one panel to the next, like I said, should not work, but it does, and it does it on a level that is just shocking to me, how much it goes together. And I'm much more of a serious kind of a person. The heavier moments normally hit harder with me, which they do in this, and humor is much less important to me, and a lot of times the humor will detract from my ability to enjoy something because a lot of times it doesn't hit right with me. But on this one, even the humor just hits so well. I love every second of this. I think personally that this section, volumes 1 and 2 of Maximum, was not quite as awesome as the volume 2 of the original Trigun was, but it's still definitely going to come home with a solid 9. I'm just having a blast with this. This is quickly becoming one of my favorite read-throughs ever, right up there with Berserk. But anyway, as always, everybody, the link for my Patreon's in the description below. The link for my Discord's in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.